Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show, and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We're here today with Justin Gray. He is the founder and CEO at LeadMD. Justin, how are you doing today, man?
Oh, not too bad. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you, Justin. You and I got a chance to connect briefly here a few weeks ago at the time of this recording, the Flip My Funnel conference. So I'm really glad you and I are getting a chance to connect again on this episode. For folks that haven't had a chance to meet you, aren't familiar with you and the team at LeadMD, I'd love for you to take a second to share with the audience what you and the team are up to these days.
Sure. Yeah. So LeadMD is what we call a modern marketing firm, which essentially means that we span all the fundamental areas of marketing, everything from strategy to planning to tactic development, and then, of course, translating those fundamental areas into technology for the sake of scale, and then bringing and activating teams into that process. So a lot of education, a lot of training, and even some staff augmentation. So front to back, everything around running a modern day marketing team.
Awesome. Well, Justin, let's jump right in. We wanted to talk today about this revenue acceleration framework that's key in your methodology, and I think it has some very tactical things for our audience. So let's just start with, what exactly is a revenue acceleration framework?
Yeah. So, of course, the last thing everyone needs is another framework that just sits on the shelf and isn't actionable. So because we have such strong roots within MarTech and really ensuring that after we walk an organization through a go-to-market strategy engagement, that we actually house that process in something that's going to help them scale, help them operationalize, and ultimately help them achieve their goals. So everything about this framework is really defining what are the critical focus areas, as we call them, to modern day marketing, and what are those interdependencies? So how do we help an organization really define their go-to-market strategy, what works best for their business, and then what are the necessary decisions and research and just buyer understanding that we're going to need to determine and define in order to implement modern day marketing technology, of which there's certainly no shortage. 6,300 plus platforms, a lot of technology, not a lot of forethought going into a lot of those purchases, and so we really hope to reduce that and reverse that trend using this framework.
Yeah. How important is it for you as you help clients, think about the steps in this methodology from process to technology to talent, if you're looking at it vertically, to take those in the right order? I think people want to jump to that middle point of the technology a lot, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm not going to be utopian and say that, we're always able to go in that particular order, but I think the framework allows us to explain the necessary inputs that are going to drive success within technology, and certainly, team creation and activation. So if some of those points have not been well defined and there's not good clarity on the client side, at least at that point we can pause, we can take a step back, and we can help them define those critical inputs. So at the very least, it becomes that conversation starter, and that's often what we find is just, maybe we do need to do some better definition around our buyer's journey or buyer persona and account profiles. And this is a good impetus to kind of put the brakes on a little bit, take a step back, and provide that definition.
Yeah. In your opinion, agencies or marketing departments that have taken a different approach and maybe have kind of blurred the lines between strategy, planning, and tactics, how does this approach kind of unmuddy the waters and help take a different approach? And what's really different about it, I guess, is what I'd like you to share a little bit with the audience, Justin.
Yeah, so I think what's interesting about this framework is we have an assessment that rides on top of this. And because we've worked with over 3,000 modern day organizations and we've benchmarked them against the framework, we've been able to understand the inputs and outputs and what organizations look like at different rungs of maturity. And so, based on what they have done really well and probably where the gaps lie, we can map them to marketing's influence in the entire organization. What are they seeing from a marketing ROI perspective? And we translate those into customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, and then just overall marketing contribution to revenue. And the really impactful aspect of this is being able to map a clear, that clear roadmap to the next rung of maturity that comes with an inherent bump in efficiency around those three dimensions. So if you want to be able to source more revenue, you want to be able to reduce that customer acquisition cost, increase lifetime value, here's the next steps that we need to perform because other best-in-class organizations have proven these are the necessary inputs to create that success. So pretty impactful when you start to look at just the volume of data that we have behind this thing.
Yeah, nice. I'm always a fan of leveraging data for next steps. So, for folks that maybe, let's say, a brand has kind of approached this all wrong and really blurred these lines in the past, and they're starting from scratch and starting with a framework like this. What are some of those next steps that they could expect to start taking?
We're always focused on the buyer. So, who do you sell to? What's that buying process look like? What's your average deal size? How are you forming and activating your teams to support that customer buying and education process? And until we've got a really solid answer around those questions, we're not going to be as effective moving on to the other areas of the framework. So that's really where we try to focus our customers and again, put the brakes on, focus on some of those really important foundational leading indicators and make a case for how strongly that's going to impact the output of any modern day marketing department. So if we don't know the buyer, it's really difficult to understand what go-to-market strategy is going to be right. The messaging, the content, the just overall buyer's journey and how we map that into technology, that all starts with fundamentally understanding how people purchase from us.
Today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing. Delphix, a big data platform, had hired an agency to manage their Google ads a few years ago, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted to see. Being such a technical B2B solution, they set out to find a team that could take on their challenge. After countless proposals, they found the perfect fit, Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. In just 1 week after launching Directive's campaigns, Delphix saw their lead volume double and their cost per lead drop by 60%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to reverse engineer it. Otherwise, you're really, you don't have a roadmap that's leading to anywhere clear. As you start to, work through a framework like this, Justin, what would you say is the role of marketing and leadership as it starts to get a little more clear to see things through to results? Like, help me understand those roles a little bit more as people start to adopt and implement this strategy a little bit further down the road, I guess.
Well, the most important aspect of any executive team or marketing executive is really to ensure that you've got solid benchmarks. So let's say that we feel like we've defined our buyer fairly well. We've got a process, a joint sales and marketing process that we know how we're going to go to market, how we're going to sell to these folks, how they're going to move through the buying process. We've got some technology stood up. We feel like we've got a pretty solid team in place. The best thing that we can possibly do at that point is benchmark the results that we're driving. And then ultimately, as we evaluate those benchmarks, we're going to uncover certain areas of the buying process, the sales and marketing process that are less efficient than we'd like them to be. Whether that's top, mid, late funnel, someone always has a pretty glaring portion of that process that is underperforming. And so at that point, we can really drill in and start to understand what are the leading indicators that we need to reevaluate. What are the parts in our process that are weak, where we can really focus on improvement? And then once we make those incremental improvements, again, we're going to be benchmarking. So, marketing is largely an optimization motion, but a lot of, marketers or old school execs view it as kind of like a windfall. Like, we're going to launch this campaign and we're going to see these massive results. Like, marketing rarely functions in that manner. Moreover, it's normally an optimization process where, again, we've got good measurement at each step of the buying process, and we're taking a really hard look at what is either driving success or what areas do we need to improve on, making those incremental improvements, and again, benchmarking those results.
Tell me a little bit more about the talent portion of this. I think we talk a lot in marketing about, process and obviously technology. A lot of folks that we talk to on this show are in the MarTech space. So that portion of this framework is talked about quite a bit. But understanding, like you said, you start with an assessment, you benchmark where you're going. Tell us a little bit about what you guys see in the talent area of that framework ongoing. Again, something that isn't just a, set it and forget it sort of thing. You're ongoing, optimizing. But I think in this area of talent, as your organization moves forward and over years, it takes a lot of thought, probably the most thought in that area. I don't want to, harp on the importance of that too much, but I have to think that, that has to be a big indicator of whether, teams get it right in the long run, whether how they handle that talent piece of it on the back end, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would say that that's the most consistent area of neglect that we see within a marketing department. And you think about marketing, it's a discipline that really has very few indicators of expertise, very few certifications that are industry wide that really mean, if you were to go out and put a job ad out, you would get, obviously thousands of resumes with thousands of different indicators of expertise, and none of them would be consistent. There's vendor-based certs. There's, of course, college degrees. There's, micro certifications and programs that you can become certified in. Very few of those, have that industry-wide reliance or that trust. And so our clients often ask us, if we have $1 million, what should we spend it on based on what you guys are seeing? And I would say a good portion of that always has to be talent development. It has to be training, educating, and just improving the overall maturity of your internal marketing team. Marketing changes very quickly. It seems like every other month there's some new trend or buzzword that's coming out. And you want a team that's made up of folks that can analyze those trends, determine if they're going to be right for your business, and apply them in a really intentional way. All too often, marketers are just kind of chasing that shiny object syndrome out there, and we waste a lot of time and money going down a lot of paths that don't yield tangible results. And so I think actually the biggest area that drives success is actually investing in educating the team and sourcing good talent.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're in agreement there. You can't underestimate the importance of the talent aspect of this framework. For folks listening to this, Justin, anything else you'd like to add on just, how they can approach this framework and change their thinking from maybe a way that hasn't been successful for them in the past, and take this and take some next steps moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, like most things, sales and marketing, the approach here tends to be looked at through a marketing lens or a marketing silo. And really, this framework is meant to be an organizational framework. What are the strategic goals of the business? What's important to us over the next 4 quarters? And ensuring that marketing is aligned to those goals. Ensuring that marketing and sales are going to market in a joint threaded motion. Ensuring that the optics that we're evaluating in marketing are the same types of optics that are going to be impactful and meaningful to the C-suite or the board of directors. That arts and crafts notion of marketing and kind of the vanity metrics aspect that often is associated is very much alive and well. And so really taking a framework like this and ensuring that it doesn't get caught up in the marketing department, but truly lives organization wide, and that marketing is seeing everything from initial go-to-market strategy all the way through customer success and customer lifetime value. That's the recipe for success within marketing these days. It's getting marketing out of that silo and really into a true cyclic process that's enforcing the strategic goals of the business.
I love it. Justin, if anybody listening to this would like to follow up with you, learn more about the revenue acceleration framework that you guys have laid out and that we're discussing today, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Sure. Well, always our website is a wealth of resources. I like to say that we give away more best practices than most agencies have. So check out LeadMD.com. Certainly, I'm big on Twitter, love Twitter. So I'm at JGrayMatter, or hit me up on LinkedIn, any of those channels, and I will definitely respond and would love to have a conversation.
All right. Well, Justin, on that note, this has been a great conversation. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Logan. Appreciate it.
Becoming a thought leader doesn't just happen. If you want to build a strong personal brand and extend your reach online and offline, you need a plan. Want help developing yours? Check out Impact Summit. This one-day event is bringing together best-selling authors, professional athletes, influential CEOs, and emerging entrepreneurs, all for one purpose: to equip you to lead, influence, and inspire. Whether you're looking to build a lasting legacy with your business or extend the reach of your brand, Impact Summit speakers will share inspiring stories and practical lessons to help you on your way. Did we mention a session on launching and growing a podcast? You guessed it. You'll hear from Sweetfish Media's own James Carberry during that session. You won't want to miss all of these influencers and leaders coming together in Salt Lake City on October 13th. Ready to learn more? Check out influencerinc.co/Impact Summit. B2B Growth listeners can get 15% off the price of their tickets for this event by using the promo code SWEETFISH. SWEETFISH. So use that code, get your tickets today, and get ready to grow your brand and your influence at Impact Summit 2018.